Hello, hello. Hiya. Hello, everybody. We appear to be at another prize long list. How did that happen? I'll just let people sort of trickle on in, but a few people have already been waiting in the chat, which is wonderful. So hi, I'm joining you from a sort of a slightly extended lunch break from my work day. So currently sat at a desk looking a little bit like a plum. Got my little this isn't an attempt at sort of sponsorship with my little mug to have some coffee while I'm waiting for this. But let's just have a few more people come on in. Apologies as well in advance. I look incredibly I'm sort of doing a bit of a sort of an impression of Castaway the film, I think, with my sort of beard and sort of general. This is what happens when you go and dog sit and you forget to bring your razor with you. So enjoy that, everybody. But no, really exciting to have everybody here and to be joining us. Hello, hi everybody. Hi Anne, hi Ben, hi Carrie. How are you all doing? Yeah, we're here. It is the time. What I'm fully expecting is going to happen today is that, like with many prizes, the announcement will be done in the form of a video, as in Booker prizes themselves will release it as a video, which means that you sort of have this thing of seeing a book for a split second as you try and work out what on earth it is. Thank you, Kieran. It's so frustrating. I tried doing this for the Booker long list last year, and it was just such a mess because I was just sort of like, what's the Adebayo? There's a book by Adebayo. Who's, it's just like this complete nonsense. I don't actually understand why that. I mean, I get it in the broader sense that for them it's a piece of, there's this piece of content of marketing of like, hey, we've got this really cool video that we can kind of walk you through instead of just like a list that somebody can copy and paste straight away. But it can mean that it's slightly ridiculous and preposterous because you've kind of got this situation where everyone's like, right, I just need to know the 13 books though. That's like, I will go and watch the bit later when somebody's sort of going, a wondrous tale of sumptuous history told through the epic voice of a young woman in blah, blah, blah. Like that can come later. That's sort of Marks and Spencer's version of the long list. That's great. In the initial part, I just need you to tell me what the books are. So we'll see. That's almost definitely going to happen again later. But let's see. And hi, Hannah. Yes, I think absolutely. Let's just take one each and just find the list. I think as well, bless them. I do feel for them in the sense that I think their website for the Booker last year basically crashed, and also they'd only update. I think they were uploading one by one. So at one point there were just 2 books on the long list, and just that was it. So yeah, we'll see. But I am here with 2 of the books that I think may make it, which a big chunk is. So The Most Secret History of Men by Mohammed Mubuga Sarr, and translated by, let's actually work that out now, Laura Vignaud, and Vignaud, and End of August by Yui Miri and translated by Morgan Giles. And I'm kind of a bit through it, as you can tell at the moment. 2 chunkers, which I think might have made it. I was going to make a prediction video, and the International Booker is one where I feel a bit more conflicted in terms of making predictions, because I really don't know as much as I'd like to about what books have been released and are out as part of the International Booker, that would be International Booker Prize eligible. And so I basically, in the past when I've tried, I've sort of based it on a mixture of the Goodreads eligible books list, which again, heroes for everybody who creates those and keeps them updated. But also I then sort of go by big presses that I like. And what that tends to mean is that I'm way off because I'm just sort of like, in my mind, the sort of Fitzgeraldo supremacy of 13 blue covered books doesn't really exist. And actually can't because of eligibility criteria. And also just sort of the there'll be some other presses where I've really enjoyed their books, but actually I have no idea about all these other books that are coming out. Weirdly, I think because the Booker is more focused and more specific in some ways, that there's a general bent towards literary fiction that feels easier to predict. Where for the Women's and International Booker Prize, I'm stumped because the pool of, although the International Booker is sort of seemingly similar kind of criteria as the non-international Booker, I think I get a bit caught up with it because I sort of it literally could be something from anywhere. And hi Ben, hiya, how you doing? And Mark, I love this. My predictions: 2 Fitzcarraldo, 2 Europa, and 3 Megan McDowell. I feel like that's actually quite sensible. I think I'm sort of, there's always one, in my mind, there's always space for like a Frank Wynne translation or a Jennifer Croft. We'll see. From all of the predictions I've seen, and I was watching Ben Reads Goods, the channel's video earlier on his predictions, and it's interesting actually because so many of the books that people are sort of touting as top ones really seem to be Brazil or Sweden. This is there seems to be quite a lot of that. I think there have just been a few big titles from both countries this year, which could be eligible and would be interesting. So there we go. But yeah, some really great prediction videos out there. And it's one of those things where every prediction video I watched, I was like, yeah, I don't really need to make one because I could not have done it either better than them. Well, I couldn't have done it better than them, but also I actually don't know any other books to mention. So that's where I am. I'm intrigued as well because the Republic of Consciousness Prize, for the first time in its history, this sounds like a drag race announcement, for the first time in Republic of Consciousness history, all of the shortlisted titles were books in translation, and it's a prize that's sort of indie presses, and there's a bit of a thing with indie presses, small indie presses, and international books in translation. Just generally, I think indie presses take more of a risk, and big publishing houses can be a bit risk averse, and books in translation can be a risk because you're sort of like, hey, here's this Portuguese author that you've never heard of before, but really I think you need to read their story about political upheaval in 1970s Portugal. It's sort of like, it's a harder sell for the average British or US sort of consumer, which is where I think a lot of literature in English is targeted, and Canada and various other parts of the English-speaking world, but particularly I think those two big markets. So I think as a result, that's sort of where it ends up. And hi Lenny, hi, thanks for joining. For some reason I was convinced it was Tuesday for this. I think because a lot of Booker things, if I'm correct, seem to be on Tuesdays, or a lot of prizes recently have been on Tuesdays that have kind of announced their things. So there we go. But yeah, I kind of assumed it was only, and actually also thank you to everybody who, interesting every time. Look, I love the Booker Prize. I'm sure their team is working really hard. This is not a thing just at the Booker Prize, but so many prizes will be like, hey, we're telling you, we're letting you know the long list tomorrow, and you're like, great, what time? Because I would quite like to know that. And there have been some prizes where I'm convinced that I have more time, and then I'll just be checking Twitter and I'll be like, oh, the list is out, great. But yeah, there we go. So let's go to some of the comments. So yeah, Kieran Reader saying, yeah, I'm nervous, or maybe it's excitement. I think I'm kind of with you. It's sort of a weird one of how also sort of my attempts to game the system by doing pre-reading, which is not, it's not cheating, but it's sort of one of those things where I've still enjoyed a lot of the books I've been reading. But yeah, whether that leads, sometimes I'm like, I've done, like with recently, these two chunkers being books that sort of have sort of sat with me. I'm still reading the end of August at the moment. And actually, it may well be that I finish them and I'm like, well, that was a great read and I'm really glad I did it. But actually, they weren't on the list, which is still fine. They're still valid as books to read. It's just, whatever. KD books, my prediction, 100% works in translation. Fab. I think nobody's really going to bet against you there, Kieran. Although I'm now tempted to kind of put a tenner against it, just on the weird off chance that there's somehow a book has broken the rules and it's kind of in a nonsense language that is technically not translated or something. I don't know. Oh, Owen, thank you. They announced originally that it was the 12th and then edited it to say the 11th. This is interesting. I'm kind of tempted. I'm also tempted to hear people's predictions on some of these as well. So I don't think I have a full 13 that I predicted. I've definitely got books that I've reserved at the library preemptively. I think, based on what people are saying and the kind of the originality of a few of them. So I think one of, if not both, of The End of August or The Most Secret Memory of Men will be on. I think My Work by Olga Ravin has a really strong chance, just because I thought that book was excellent. And it's weird, I liked The Employees. I thought it was good. I just didn't love it, and I couldn't quite work out why. But then I loved that. So we shall see. Yeah, and I think what other books have really appealed to me? I keep on seeing Kibogo by Scholastique Mukasonga making a few lists, which I'd quite like to see on there. Actually, I thought it was a very good book. I'm really rooting. So Fum de Stamper had Madrid Will Be Their Tomb by Elizabeth Duval, which I think is still eligible. And I would love to see that there. It was one of my favorite books of last year. The same for the In Love with Singular Men by Victor Heringer. But I don't know if it's eligible. Looking at the eligibility list, I'm sort of way off in some ways, but also not. And yeah. Ben Reed's good. Translations from the past. So Julia, I'm guessing you mean by Sandra Newman, still has a chance. That would be hilarious, wouldn't it? If they just sort of really, because the International Booker, let's be real, the International Booker throws up some weird books. And like, I love a good weird book on a list. And actually, that's normally my favorite thing. But like The War of the Poor that year by Eric Vuillard was just one of those things where you're like, what is happening? Like, what is this? And actually, but I think the International Booker takes a lot more risks, and I really love that about it. So yes, thank you, Katie. That's the other one I was trying to think of. I knew there was another book. So Ednan, and I can't remember the first name of the author, but Axelsson, I think, is the surname. I thought was incredible. I thought it was a really interesting book, like a kind of 700 page epic. Thank you, Linnea Axelsson. This 600 page epic told in verse, which I think is just really interesting. It talks a lot about Sami populations in sort of the upper north parts of Sweden, Norway, and Finland. The Sami peoples, the sort of indigenous people there, and I would really love to see that. I think it's just really interesting. Even if it's not on the list, just go and read it. It's fun. It doesn't actually take that long to read. 500-600 pages sounds like really long, but then you realize that it's a prose novel. And so it reads really quickly because there are very few words per page. And there's something really special about it, I think. It's really, really clever, I think. Yeah, and I totally agree with Hannah. Hannah lost the plot there. I feel like translated works always take a little longer to reach the zeitgeist, so I never have a clue about potentials for this prize. Yeah, absolutely. I'm always sort of just like, okay, sure, that book, unless it's by an author I already know or whatever, it's always a really tricky one to see. We're just under 2 minutes now until the live announcement, if it's on time. So we shall see. Last little coffee injection before this hits, and life gets upended for a little bit. I don't know if everybody else is. I'm hoping to read all. I was about to say all 600, all 13. That's very different. All 13 books on the long list. And so part of me selfishly hopes that I've read a few of them already to speed that along, particularly if they are this big. So we shall find out. I think we're basically at the moment. This is now where we accidentally crash the website by just constantly refreshing it, isn't it? Let's see what happens. It's always. This is always the fun thing. Like, do you find it on Twitter first? Do you find it on Instagram first? Do you just find it entirely on their website? Is this going to crash? Living the dream, really. This is currently just a live stream of me looking on Instagram. You're welcome. Here we go. Okay, right. It is officially 2:00. Let's see the Booker Prizes Instagram account. This is now where I can't type properly. This is very helpful. Let's see. No. That looks like a video of something else. Come on. If anybody else finds it first, Twitter, thank you. So I was having bed, just like the remains of the day being. Can you imagine if they just were like, nah, sod it. We just decided the remains of the day would just be the winner. Actually, we're not even going to have a long list. It's just going to be winner. Right. Let's see. Okay, I'm not getting anywhere with that. Let's try. If anybody else happens to find a good link for this while I'm faffing, please do let me know. This is the magical moment. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I was entirely skipping past an actual page. There we go. That's really helpful. Okay. Oh, what a list. This is very interesting. And one where I've read approximately none of them, I think. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. This is really interesting. Okay. So we have quite a few books here. So one that I kept on hearing a few people mention is Kairos by Jenny Erpenbeck. So really exciting to see that here. It's on the international. It's on the Instagram page. I'm just watching it slowly rotate out of view, and I'm like, no, come back. If not, let's just check the website because that might be there. This is a really interesting list, partly as well because it is entirely nothing that I reserved from the library apart from one. So actually, fun thing. So Domenico Starnone, the house on Via Gemito, I kept on seeing it come up on NetGalley, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll read it another time. And yeah, I didn't, and there we go. Now it's coming back to find me. So we have Gabriella Vina, Undiscovered. I'll add translators and everything later, just because I'm just looking at the spines of the book here. Itamar Vieira Jr. with Crooked Plough, which is one I kept on hearing about, the Brazilian author. Domenico Stanone, The House on Via Gemito, an Italian author. Lost on Me by Veronica Ralmo. What I'd Rather Not Think About by Gente Postuma. The Silver Bone by Andrei Kirkov. Oh, again. Okay. So Andrei Kirkov, who I think was on either last year or the year before with his book. A Dictator Calls by Ismail Kadare. Actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He's a very big author. Marta 210 by Hwang Sok-yong. White Nights by Ursula, whatever that says. I can't actually see their surname from this thing. Bonnick, I think it is. Ia Genberg, The Details. Jenny Erpenbeck with Kairos. And we've got Blanco Calderon with Simpatia. And Not a River by Selva Almada. Okay. this is, yeah, the type thing. I'm with you on this. So this is quite an interesting mix because just from first glance here, we've got a Korean author, we've got a couple of South American authors, including a couple, I think at least one Brazilian. We've got, this is a really interesting list. Is this only, oh no, it's 13 books. Okay. This is interesting. Let's see if we can get this website all working. Maybe not. This is an interesting list. So I think the thing I find particularly interesting about this so far is relatively like medium-sized books, some shorter books in there, a few indie presses. So I can see like Scribe and Charco are there, probably a couple of other indies that I don't know of too closely. We've got quite a range of languages, it seems. So I can see a Korean book. I think Erpenbeck is German. We've got a Brazilian book. We've got a couple of, I think, Spanish language books here. This is really quite interesting. And not at all what I had predicted. But yeah. And thank you for people who are kind of chipping in with where you can find some of these books as well. So Charlie, thank you. Not a River is on Everand. And I'm just still watching this just loop. If they're going to sort of, I bet you, like, of their views, they'll be like, wow, you know, there was one person in London who watched this twirling set of books about 400 times. And it's just me with my phone in the background trying to work this on. But Kairos is an interesting one. That's one I've been hearing a bit about. So I reserved that from the library, and I reserved Crooked Plough. I've got Not a River at home. Yeah, well, here we go. Ishmael, yeah, sort of seeing this. So Ishmael Kadare is an author who I keep on hearing about but I've never read. But I think he's a big name, I believe, right? Isn't he either a Nobel winner or kind of always somebody tipped for the Nobel? I think. Really interesting list. I have read none of these. And this is not on the list. Also, no Fitzcarraldo as well. I mean, not that it's like a mandatory space for like a Fitzcarraldo, although there should be. But I'm really intrigued by this because these are a lot of names that I don't think people were really gunning for in a big way. I don't think people were really kind of championing quite the same way as maybe some of the kind of big hitters, the sort of traditional names that people expect on some of these. Yeah, really interesting list. And yeah, I think Kadare's, I think you're right, Hannah. I have a feeling I have a really strong feeling that Ishmael Kadare was, if not a winner of, I think the International Booker in its initial guise was a sort of a prize that was just kind of like almost like a Nobel style thing of people were submitted, and it was this big kind of thing of who is a big, well-established author based on a body of work. And I believe Ishmael Kadare either won or was high up in it. I think you're right. I think Hannah. I think you're right, Hannah. I think he did win. But yeah. So yeah, this is very fun. What have people read from this? What are people kind of feeling? Thank you, Magda. Yes. Yeah, one in 2005. And Ben Reed's good. Thank you for that. So 8 from Europe, 4 from South America, and 1 from East Asia. Okay, interesting. Particularly as there were quite a few Swedish books that were sort of touted that I'm not sort of seeing there. Quite a few Brazilian books. Apart from Crooked Plough, I'm not seeing sort of more of those. 1 from East Asia. Yeah, I think as well because of Kibogo and a few other books that people were naming, I thought we'd have at least a couple of African authors as well, actually, of sort of, because there are a few ones that people seem to be really rooting behind that aren't there. The details is Swedish. There we go. Thank you, Ben. It's also short, which is nice. I mean, not to, like big books can be great, as I found from these two books that I've been reading. But when there are 13 books and the shortlist is like, so the long list is announced and then it's under a month until the shortlist, which I think is April 9th or something like that, then you kind of do want some of the 13 books to be a little shorter, and some of them are, so we shall see. Well, I now feel like I'm going to have to spend a good 15-20 minutes just scrabbling through my library to try and find some of these books, and or Everand, and sort of just seeing where I can find a few. Yeah, I think, yeah, as Ben makes a point there, sort of a little in terms of sort of diversity, sort of continent-wise, it's a bit disappointing to maybe not see as many books from outside Europe. Like for Europe to have 8 of the 13 is, I mean, there are a lot of really incredible books being translated at the moment, but it's interesting that like there aren't more South American books. It feels like this has really been a good few years for a lot of really big South American books and publishers, and also just East Asian ones, particularly Korean ones as well. So yeah, this should be fun. Let's see what happens from this. Having having said at the beginning, like, oh yes, I'm really excited about reading all 13. I'm still excited about reading all 13. I'm now a little bit like, oh, but I haven't actually read any of them yet. This is normally going into the International Booker, I've read 1 or 2 as a little bit of a head start. And I have not this time. So time to investigate Everand and my library and a few others. I'm a little gutted for some of actually for Aidnan, which we were just talking about just before this. I was fairly convinced that Aidnan and the Most Secret History of Men A Memory of Men would both make the long list, just because I thought they were really strong books. So we shall see. The women's, yes, yeah, Lenny, I'm kind of with you. I mean, I finished last year's list around that time, but it was a lot of reading. And I think the Women's Prize having come out around this, the Republic of Consciousness Prize, a few others are kind of, I feel a bit overwhelmed by reading right now. So let's see. Yeah. Okay. Well, I shall leave everybody to go and basically attack their local libraries lists to kind of find and scrape out every single one of these that they can find. I'm a little gutted for Olga Raven's My Work. Actually, I thought that was a really exceptional book, and thought that had a real ferocity to it that was really clever. And I'd have loved to have seen it on this list, actually. I also am kind of surprised that nothing from And Other Stories made it in. I thought Michele Mari's Verdigris is a book that a few people have been speaking about, and that book sounded quite fun. I say fun, sounded quite intense, but it sounded like a very good book. So yeah, well, happy reading, everybody. Have the loveliest time. I hope they all go well. I'm hoping to read all 13, as I mentioned, and I'll do solo book reviews for all 13 if I can as well. So I will be talking about these. Good luck. May the odds be ever in your favor. And thank you for joining me as I panic and stare at Instagram. It's been a beautiful thing for us all. Take care and have a wonderful day, you lovely people. And good luck finding those books. Bye. Let's go.